Hello, Dr. Erica Zelfand here with another Nutrition in Focus video brought to you by Allergy Research Group. And today I'm going to be telling you about one of my favorite nerves in the body, the vagus nerve, and how understanding how this nerve works can help you support and balance your nervous system. So first, let's understand how the nervous system is wired. The autonomic nervous system is comprised of two main subdivisions, one being the sympathetic nervous system and the other being the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, the sympathetic nervous system is the nervous system that helps us deal with big things that are really stressful and have the potential to do us significant harm. This is our stress response. So you may have heard the term fight or flight. It's actually fight, flight, or freeze. That's another way we can respond to stress. And that is all mediated by the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system, on the other hand, is our rest and digest state. This is also the state we need to be in for sexual function. So you may have heard the term rest and digest or the term feed and breed. Both of these terms refer to the parasympathetic nervous system. And the goal is not actually to be in just the sympathetic or just the parasympathetic state. They're both very important, and we need to be able to flow in and out of these two states as the situation calls for. So after a big stressor happens, we need to go into the sympathetic state to deal with the stressor, and then we need to come back to the parasympathetic state to regroup and focus and digest and have other biological functions. And one way we can do this, and one way in which our bodies naturally do this, is through this wonderful and strange nerve known as the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, also known as cranial nerve 10, has many distributions. So it exits at the level of the brain and it travels down to the body where it innervates many organs. The vagus nerve is seemingly everywhere. It goes all over the place. So some of the places that it goes are the pharynx, where it helps us swallow food, swallow saliva. Our larynx, it helps us talk, helps us vocalize. Vagus nerve also goes to the heart, and when the vagus nerve stimulates the heart, our heart rate decreases. It also goes to the lungs, where it slows our respiratory rate, and our kidneys. But wait, there's more. The vagus nerve also stimulates our digestive organs, the liver, the spleen, the stomach, the intestines. In the intestines, it helps with smooth muscle contraction and glandular secretion. So this nerve goes all over the place and has many functions. And when the vagus nerve stimulates a part of the body, it has a parasympathetic effect, a calming effect on the body. So a lot of what we know about the vagus nerve comes to us from Otto Loewi, a German Nobel Prize winning physiologist. In 1921, Otto Loewi proved that chemical substances, not just electrical impulses, can convey nerve signals to the organs and actually affect the organs. So by stimulating the vagus nerve, one could lower their heart rate. Now, he didn't quite understand how this worked. He called the substance vagus stuff. We now know that it's the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, that's how this works. And nowadays, we have a modern theory known as polyvagal theory, which explains the role of the vagus nerve in our emotional regulation, in our social connection, and in our fear response. And it's called the polyvagal theory because poly means many and vagal means wandering. So it explains how this nerve is able to innervate and affect our health in a myriad of different ways by stimulating a number of different organs. So we know that stimulation of the vagus nerve, or vagal nerve stimulation, VNS for short, helps us feel safe. It activates our parasympathetic nervous system. VNS also has anti-inflammatory effects. So when you stimulate your vagus nerve, you're fighting inflammation in the body. And stimulating the vagus nerve can also improve our reasoning and executive functioning. Because remember, when we're stressed out, when we're in a sympathetic state, we can't always think as well as when we're calm, right? And the vagus nerve helps us get calm. Vagus nerve stimulation has clinically been shown to help with depression, anxiety, epilepsy, and even cardiac arrhythmias, irregular rhythms of the heart. Now, part of how the vagus nerve works is actually quite interesting. When we think about nerves that exit the brain and go to the body, we tend to think of nerves as being efferent, meaning they go from the brain to the brain communicates with the rest of the body and has effects. But the vagus nerve also has some nerve fibers that are afferent, that go from the body, from the organs, to the brain. So these highways that go along the vagus nerve, there are two ways. We have brain to body and body to brain, but it's not 50-50. See if you can guess what percentage of the nerve fibers go from the brain to the body and what go from the body to the brain. And as it turns out, I'm going to give you the answer. Only 10 to 20% of the vagus nerve fibers go from the brain to the body. The other 80 to 90% of the vagus nerve fibers are afferent. They go from the body to the brain. That means the things that we do with our bodies actually affect our mental health and the way our brains function and the way we feel. This means that how we treat our bodies can actually affect our moods and can actually affect how we cope with and respond to stress. So there are a number of different ways in which we can stimulate the vagus nerve without any fancy machinery, just by doing things with our bodies. And some of these strategies include deep diaphragmatic breathing, singing and humming, because remember the vagus nerve goes in the throat. And for some reason, those kind of mid-range tunes like Disney tunes seem to work particularly well for vagus nerve stimulation. Gargling salt water is another way to do it. Exposure to cold and cold therapy. Laughter stimulates the vagus nerve, and exercise. So we'll take a closer look at some of these strategies today. So one is diaphragmatic breathing. This is the cheapest, easiest, fastest way to stimulate the vagus nerve. It requires no equipment whatsoever, no fancy tools at all. You just breathe, and breathing increases heart rate variability. It lowers the blood pressure. It increases the activity of the parasympathetic nervous system, helping us feel more relaxed, helping us feel more safe. And there's a positive feedback loop here. So the slower and deeper we breathe, the calmer our brains become. And the calmer our brains become, they will automatically slow the respiratory rate. So this healing begets further healing. So diaphragmatic breathing, what is that? I'm going to teach you. So sit up straight or stand up straight, just in erect posture. Put your hands on the sides of your ribs. And as you inhale, have your ribs push out to the sides. Your hands should move up and out a little. And as you exhale, the hands come in and you can grow taller. So as you inhale, think of the ribs coming out. And as you exhale, grow taller. And a very simple exercise that you can do at home, when you're driving, in front of the computer, whenever you're feeling stressed, is called 4-7-8 breathing, where you inhale for 4 counts, you hold the breath in for 7, and you exhale for 8. So I'm going to talk you through that right now. We're going to inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1, hold 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Repeat in 2, 3, 4, hold 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Feel free to do that as many times as you like on your own, and that's a really wonderful way to stimulate the vagus nerve and get in a calmer state. Another way to stimulate the vagus nerve is through laughter. We actually have studies on laughter, and we know that laughter reverses the stress response in the body. It decreases cortisol, it decreases epinephrine, and through a number of different ways, it actually drops the stress hormones and helps us get to a calmer state. Laughter positively improves our moods and our health. And the authors of one study have this to say about laughter. They say laughter therapy is a non-invasive and non-pharmacological alternative treatment for stress and depression. Laughter therapy is effective and scientifically supported as a single or adjuvant therapy, meaning you can use it on its own, or you can pair laughter with another kind of therapy that you're doing to support stress or mood. Another way to support your mood and support your vagus nerve is through exercise. We know that exercise stimulates the vagus nerve, that it improves the tone of the parasympathetic nervous system, it increases heart rate variability, it decreases the adrenal stress response, and increases tryptophan, which is a precursor to serotonin, which we need for mood and memory. Now, some people think exercise increases endorphins. It may or may not. The evidence is mixed, but it's nevertheless clear that exercise supports the mood, especially if you do the right kind of exercise. So aerobic exercise is an excellent choice for many people. High intensity exercise is better than low, and endurance training is really good for parasympathetic nervous system tone. So activities like cross-country skiing, rowing, jogging, riding a stationary bike, all of these are great choices for most of us. Now, I do want to insert a word of caution here with really high intensity workouts such as HIIT or CrossFit. Overtraining can actually lower the heart rate variability, and it can actually reduce vagal tone. So there is such a thing as working out too hard, and that can negatively affect mood and stress response. So we have a study from 2017, a meta-analysis of 6 randomized controlled trials of 262 adults, showing that exercise significantly decreased anxiety symptoms in the adults that exercised. And the more one exercised, the less likely one would see their depressive symptoms return. So exercise can help with anxiety and depression. Now, while you can exercise as a standalone therapy, or you can exercise in addition to, say, an antidepressant drug, there's an interesting study here that showed that exercise alone actually worked better than exercise plus sertraline. Sort of interesting. So even if you're on an antidepressant and exercising, you'll get some benefit. But curiously, exercise alone may work just as well or even better. Exercise has also been shown to help people quit smoking. So there's no reason for most of us not to be exercising. So many benefits for mood, for health, for overall well-being. Now, another thing that we can do to support our overall health, as well as our ability to cope with stress, is to quit drinking alcohol. Now, I know a lot of people drink to help deal with stress, but this has some devastating rebound effects. One of them being on sleep quality. So drinking alcohol can cause insomnia. This is kind of ironic because a lot of people actually drink to help them fall asleep, and drinking alcohol can in fact help many people fall asleep. But within a few hours, if you've been drinking, you're more likely to wake up and have trouble falling back asleep if you drank to fall asleep in the first place. We know that people who drink don't have as good sleep quality, and because alcohol is a diuretic, you're more likely to get up at night and have trips to the bathroom. That can interrupt your sleep as well. And while drinking alcohol initially helps us relax because of its effects at GABA receptors, when the alcohol wears off, we're actually prone to rebound anxiety for the next 24 hours and rebound depression. So that means if you're stressed out and you have a drink to help you unwind, you're actually more likely to be stressed and sad the following day than if you didn't drink alcohol. Now, there's sort of a negative loop here that happens because many people turn back to alcohol when they're in their rebound anxiety phase to help calm their nerves. And this perpetuates this negative, vicious cycle. So quitting drinking alcohol can be hard at first, but ultimately it is very, very tonifying to the nervous system and ultimately helps decrease anxiety, decrease depression, and increase our ability to cope with stress. Now, one thing that may help you quit drinking alcohol, or that may just help you improve your tolerance for stress in general, is to do something called forest bathing. So this is not just for hippies. There's actually a lot of clinical evidence that hanging out in nature spending time in the forest, taking off your shoes, putting your feet in the grass, even if it's cold or rainy or snowing, bundling up and going for a walk in the woods can be incredibly supportive to our health. Forest bathing increases natural killer cell number and activity, meaning it strengthens our immune systems. It decreases the levels of it increases the levels of anti-cancer proteins, so it can help us fight cancer. Forest bathing reduces blood pressure and heart rate. It reduces our stress hormones. It increases our parasympathetic nervous system effects and decreases our sympathetic nervous system responses. Forest bathing can also help us maintain a healthy weight. It can reduce anger and fatigue, can reduce confusion, and it can alleviate anxiety and depression just by spending time in nature. So when we think about it this way, anything that we can do to manage our stress is going to support our immune health, is going to support our overall health and well-being. Just by spending time in nature, avoiding alcohol, exercising, breathing, laughing, doing these nourishing things to support our bodies and our moods will also support our overall health. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please catch my other video on the effect of stress on the immune system, as well as other articles and videos at allergyresearchgroup.com/blog. And once again, I'm Dr. Erica Zelfand, and I thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.